Hello again, and welcome everyone to the third session of the day. Hope you all had a good lunch and networking break. Today we've got a very unique session that I'm really excited to share with you all. We will still be having a very brief question and answer session at the end of the performance, so if you could please continue to ask questions in the audience and also on the Slido information. We should be sharing that up shortly. There you go, there's the link for all our digital attendees, www.sli.do, and that's the unique code there. And yeah, just continue to ask questions, we will address them at the end. And so, without further ado, this session is Moon Symphony, how cosmic perspectives can inspire our role as crewmates here on Spaceship Earth. And we have two fantastic panelists today, Nicole Stott, who's astronaut, aquanaut, artist, mum, and co-founder of the Space for Art Foundation. What doesn't she do? And we also have Amanda Lee Falkenberg, international award-winning composer. So two fantastic women. And without further ado, please, we'll have Nicole introducing first, if you'd like to come up and speak.
Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and push to the first slide. Whoop, I think that's it. Yep. All right, really awesome to be here. Huge fan of One Young World and the team they bring together. And how cool that we've got something called Extreme Hangouts. That's a fun thing to be a part of. And I'm just going to really quickly run through some slides. I cannot wait for you to experience what my friend Amanda has created for humanity, quite honestly, but for you to hear today. And part of that inspiration comes through the experience that astronauts have had in space. So I'm going to act as the representative for the experience that astronauts have had in space. I will start by sharing with you that I had the opportunity to spend over 2 missions, over 100 days, primarily on the International Space Station. And in order to get to space, to live and work there for even a short period of time, to return home safely, that's a pretty complex thing to do. But in all that time, all of that experience, I came back to Earth, what I consider to be 3 very simple, kind of grounding, yet compelling lessons. And the first is, we live on a planet. I know, we learn these things that I'm going to share with you probably when we're 5 years old. And yet somehow we don't keep them with us on a day-to-day basis. And I think we need to learn how to do that. We live on a planet. We are all Earthlings. And the only border that matters is that thin blue line of atmosphere that blankets and protects us all. Now, when I was in space, as I said, the majority of my time was on the International Space Station, this masterpiece in space. I could talk all day about this one picture and the significance in it. Best example of living off the grid that you can find, absolutely. World-class science and world-class science laboratories. I mean, that was the whole goal of building this space station. The international partnerships that are what this is built on. For over 20 years, people from over 15 countries, represented by 5 international space agencies, have been living peacefully and successfully in this place with their mission off the Earth for the Earth. Everything being done here is ultimately about improving life on Earth. And I love that I can also say that as this international partnership, we are there together for the planet. And I love that that's part of the mission statement for this year's COP26 activities as well. So in this place, this mechanical life support system that we've built in space to mimic as best we can what Earth does for us naturally. The crew members who live there, the astronauts, every day we are acutely aware of how much CO2 is in our atmosphere, how much clean drinking water we have, the integrity of our thin metal hull, and absolutely of the health and well-being of all our crewmates. Because we know that in order for us to just survive there, before doing any of the science we're going to do there, we have to pay attention to those things. And that's why I would argue that this program, this place in space, is the best example for how we should be living as crewmates here on Spaceship Earth. All right, I'm going to flick it one more time. Oop, there we go. Let's go back. Okay, so we go to this place in space, right? Because we can look at things from a whole new perspective. We can take gravity out of the equation, which means for the science, we can discover new things about stuff we thought we knew a lot about, and then bring those lessons back to Earth with us. But we're also looking at things like all of the measures of our planet. Over 50% of the data that we use to understand how our planet is changing is coming to us from space, from satellites, from instruments, and from the activities that are happening on board the International Space Station. It's like we can watch the planet breathe. We can get the vital signs of the planet and then apply that information to the solutions to the very challenging problems that we have here on Earth. Now, we're not just using the science, right? We're not just using these instruments to observe Earth. We, the astronauts, are observing Earth as well. And there's a pretty compelling positive impact that comes through that, which I think is what feeds in beautifully to Amanda's creation of this symphony that you'll learn about today. We look at Earth in a totally different way. Even though you shouldn't have to go to space to know this, we learn those three simple lessons. The planet, Earthlings, thin blue line, it is our reality in this place. And I know as humans, like even coming here today, when I came by myself, it's kind of human nature to look for the familiar, right? To want to find, ooh, where's that person that I know? I was looking for Amanda. And we do that same thing from our spaceships. I consider Florida my home. I wanted to see Florida from space. And then, oh, worked. As you look out the window and you're getting to know this planet better, the deserts of Australia from the deserts in Africa, just by the patterns and the colors, and experiencing all of that, the Earth kind of evolving into this work of art with these surprises every time you look out the window. I remember looking at it and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm discovering the interconnectivity of everything, which then drives us to understand the interdependence of everything. And where that became the most clear to me was in watching the Earth at night and storms on Earth. I grew up in Florida, I told you. I used to think storms just happened over me. It was lightning over me, and then when it was gone, it was gone. But there's not a single thing happening on Earth that is not in one way or another wrapping around the planet and affecting everything else. That was my lesson in interconnectivity. And I believe that for us to solve our problems down here, we have to recognize that in our daily lives. We have to accept that everything, everyone that we share this planet with is interconnected. I might not be pointing it the right way. There we go. And then I always wanted to still see Florida from space. Florida's in this picture too. It's kind of coming in from the right side of the picture. It's part of this beautiful blue image that you can see the Bahamas down to Cuba, stretching out towards South America. And I think when you look at this, even though I still think of Florida as a special place, it is a special place that's a part of a planet that's my home. There is no denying when you look at an image like this that we live on a planet. And in closing, for me at least, I will one stop before my last slide, which is kind of to ground us, to go back to space, to bring us back to Earth. This is where we all are today in Scotland. You can probably find on this image better than I can where that exact pinpoint is. But again, I don't think there's any denying that here in Scotland we are on a planet. And in final closing, this iconic image, this will be brought to life again to you in the most beautiful way through what Amanda presents. But we're going to take this journey through space. We're going to come back to Earth. And to this day, I don't think there is any better representation than this picture that was taken over 50 years ago by the crew of Apollo 8, the first time with human eyes that we saw our planet rising above the horizon of another planetary body, the moon. And no better depiction of who and where we all are together in space. Nothing better to show that we live on a planet. We are all Earthlings. Only border that matters is that thin blue line of atmosphere. And I would argue no better way of considering what I would say is our most important role as Earthlings is to accept our responsibility as crewmates, not passengers here on Spaceship Earth. And now I'm going to hand over to my incredibly talented friend, Amanda. She is going to take us on that journey through our solar system and back to Earth. And I know actually, that you will be impressed in ways that maybe you haven't been before. So, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for your inspiring story and your powerful analogies. Space means many things to many people, but the one thing I think we all agree on is that space fills us with awe, and no one can deny the absolute beauty of the cosmos. And with these heightened vibrations of awe and wonder, its powerful frequencies transcends. It inspires, and it wants us to do something with its energy. So, as artist and composer, when I first gazed upon these moons, locked in the vacuum of space, I wanted to break them free from that eternal vault of silence. So this collection of dynamic moons found their way into the Moon Symphony, which celebrates art, astronomy, astronauts, and science, where science drove the entire creative process. This symphony offers a rich audio and visual experience, merging the worlds of music and science to dramatize past, present, and future moon explorations, while offering fresh perspectives of our own home planet. The hope is that by giving melodic identification to each moon, one will be transported to these fascinating worlds on a powerful journey back to Earth. The libretto is anchored in scientific accuracy that is drawn from consultation with some of the world's greatest planetary scientists from NASA, the European Space Agency, the Johns Hopkins University, and astronauts from the International Space Station. The stunning visuals have been provided by award-winning space artists. And soon, our mission will be joined by world-renowned conductor Maren Alsop, leading the prestigious London Symphony Orchestra for its professional recording in 2022. Today, 6 musical excerpts will be played for each moon, showcasing stories based on scientific data collected by space probes, providing a theatrical voice that celebrates the collective achievements from space agencies and their remarkable scientists and engineers. The vision is for concerts to be held across the globe to communicate the importance of these missions, which embodies the spirit of cooperation, unified by passion and a common goal of achieving highly successful, mind-blowing, inspirational space missions. The 7th movement is the crowning moment of the symphony and offers a discovery of a different kind, where its story is told through the emotional data experienced through the hearts of astronauts. For the 7th movement, it will be played in its entirety, which contains a powerful message as one experiences new perspectives of our home as we stand together on our moon, just in time to experience Earthrise. And now, as we launch from Spaceship Earth, we head to Jupiter to explore the most volcanic world in our solar system, Moon Io, a world scorched by fire and flame, caught in a celestial tug-of-war where companion moons Europa and Ganymede pull Io in one direction, while Jupiter yanks back in the opposite. This brutal choreographic dance is responsible for Io's extreme runaway tidal heating. This first excerpt explores the Loki Patera, Io's most powerful volcano. Its power is generated by an intriguing process and described as a massive quiescent lava sea shaped like a horseshoe, which over time forms a crust, and when this reaches critical thickness, sinks into the magma, and the sea resurfaces again like a giant windshield wiper. The Loki Patera is the most powerful volcano in our solar system, producing more heat than all of Earth's volcanoes combined. Staying in the Jovian system, we now depart from fire to explore the icy world of Europa, a moon that offers exhilarating possibilities after leaving trails of promising signs that a global subsurface ocean, larger than all of Earth's oceans combined, exists beneath its 20-kilometre ice shell and may also contain microbial life. Europa's oceanic wonders has not been lost on NASA, who are preparing to launch the Europa Clipper, which will soar the skies in 2024 on a 7-year journey to confirm the presence of Europa's oceans and investigate life in outer shores. And now we travel to Saturn to explore its largest moon, Titan. Famous for its thick, stubborn haze. For decades, Titan remained a constant cloud of orange frustration, locking away its secret world. But all that changed after the arrival of the Huygens space probe and the Cassini spacecraft, which arrived at Saturn after an epic 7-year journey. Together, they returned an abundance of science in which the next excerpt feasts upon and celebrates Titan's Earth-like resemblance and explores its climatology. An exotic difference to note, however, is that instead of water that fills Titan's lakes and seas, it is methane and ethane that forms Titan's hydrological cycle. For the next excerpt, the music begins moody as clouds form and erupts into a methane monsoon. The music then turns to delight with the illumination of Titan. It's no longer a world of hopeless haze, all thanks to the spectacular achievements of space companions Cassini and Huygens. Staying in the Saturnian system, we now explore Enceladus. Until the arrival of the Cassini spacecraft, Enceladus was primarily thought to be nothing more than just a boring chunk of ice rock. However, Cassini's magnetometer team detected a signal on Enceladus, and it was principal investigator that sensed something fascinating taking place at Enceladus. So flew to NASA JPL to convince the group to reconsider their flybys to get a closer look at Enceladus. And over the years, like a great detective story, the Cassini team pieced together the collective data, and efforts were finally rewarded by a monumental discovery. Rows and rows of gigantic geysers emanating water vapour from the moon's south pole, extending tens of thousands of kilometres into the sky. And so it was the cooperative spirit of the international Cassini team that paved the way to a colossal discovery, thanks to their collective efforts, which forever transformed the direction of planetary science.
Enceladus, frost and flame, orbiting Saturn's ring, whispers from an icy shell, oceans deep with fiery swell. Towering sound that thunders from the ground. Enceladus, Enceladus. Thunder from a watery ground, frozen ice dust all around. Rose and rose, rose and rose, rose and rose, rose and rose of blues. Arise, blues, arise. Enceladus, Enceladus, icy frost and flame, vapors bursting veils the skies, rings of frost and icy flame, floating through waters,
This tiny satellite of Uranus, called Miranda, is named after a character from the Shakespearean play The Tempest. A seemingly appropriate name, since this complicated world appeared to tell a story that rivaled the drama of its own namesake. Miranda is one of the closest moons to Uranus, and inner moons experience the most violent impacts from incoming projectiles. Scientists are divided about their theories and the events that transpired that have scarred Miranda's terrain, leaving a patchwork of macabre mutations etched into her surface. However, Miranda claims one monument to her name, a giant ice cliff the tallest cliff in the solar system. The next excerpt explores her tempestuous past, and the raw photo and video footage is a silent testament to the harsh, violent, and unforgiving edges of our outer solar system.
In the last tortured past, lands were shaken, grounds awakened, the chorused tide burst monolithic
We return to Jupiter to explore Ganymede, the largest moon in our solar system and the only known moon with its own intrinsic magnetic field, and was the biggest discovery that came out of the Galileo mission that toured the Jovian system in the 90s. This sixth movement is divided into two sections. The first explores the phenomenal science taking place at Ganymede, while the second pays tribute and turns the telescope to Earth to 1610 to explore the story of a scientist who combed night skies with groundbreaking telescope on a quest for truths. We celebrate the famed Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei and his colossal discoveries. The next excerpt tells the story of his giant revelations, his conflicts with the church, and the advent of modern science. Before I continue the inspiration for the seventh movement, I want to share a story that led to a very special collaboration. In 2018, I became a member of the IEEE, a space arts organisation whose members include well-published and noted planetary scientists. And that is how Nicole Stott and I came into each other's orbit. Back in 2018, Nicole reached out to IEEE members asking for artwork for an event to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 8 mission at the Kennedy Space Center that December. She had listened to excerpts that I'd shared with the IEEE community from the Moon Symphony and sent me an email asking if I would be interested in writing music for a 5-minute Apollo 8 tribute video that they would also be showing at the event. Being asked to partner with an astronaut was one thing, but what equally resonated was that the Apollo 8 was an iconic mission for humanity. The first crewed mission to the moon and the first time our planet was seen with human eyes rising above the horizon of another planetary body, our Earth moon. This mission was made famous because of astronaut Bill Anders' photograph, perfectly known as Earthrise, which became the most influential environmental image ever taken. Knowing the impact this photo made on the world and combining this image with the story of the seventh movement was going to be a powerful partnership to help amplify the message for the crowning moment of this symphony. I had not begun composing the seventh movement, but I emotionally knew the atmosphere I wanted to create. Music charged with the highest vibrations of love, awe, and reverence. So aligning the seventh movement with this image made enormous sense to me, as I too wanted to create a musical impact. So I told Nicole it would be my honour to help craft the music. So now, with that story shared, let's turn our attention to the story of the seventh movement. In my many conversations with Nicole, she explained that when astronauts return to Earth, they struggle to find words to communicate their experiences. And so I thought, here's my chance for music to take over when words fail. So before I play the music for the entire final movement, I want to share its simple story. The opening features a boy's solo, which is the first time the symphony introduces the sound of a child's voice, which represents the children of our future and the fragility of Earth. But soon, boy's solo is joined by full choir, emphasising that the children of this world are not alone in this planetary plight, and as a united species, we will find solutions to face the challenges in this world together. And it was this film that premiered at the IMAX Theatre at the Kennedy Space Center on December the 21st, 50 years to the day when the world was gifted the image of Earth rising.
Who As we sail the dark full moon rays to climb, and there from this side, goes inside, when we
There is something There is something important about people just understanding what is going on up there. Space Shuttle and ISS astronaut Nicole Stott. Experiencing the Earth as a unified whole is more than an idea for astronauts. It is a powerful reality. It is a message from the universe, not to space flyers alone, but to all of humanity. Now the question is, how can larger numbers of people get that message?
With the enlightened experiences of astronauts and the brilliant minds of scientists, we have a vision to inspire the daylights out of everyone back here on Spaceship Earth, to encourage new perspectives about our home as we contemplate who and where we are in this place. Through concert halls, outdoor stadiums, festivals and planetariums, we wish to spread the message that whatever culture, colour or creed, we are unified by the cosmic dust that shapes our moons, stars and galaxies. And together we share this universal thread of interconnectivity. On behalf of our team of scientists, astronauts, artists and musicians, thank you for joining our outer solar system adventure, where it's hoped that through the power of symphony, space and science, you will be inspired to join our planetary campaign to spread these glorious vibrations of awe and wonder all over planet Earth. Thank you.
Wow, I think that was amazing and emotional, and it just goes to show the power of music when words aren't quite enough. Definitely such a journey that I feel we've all been on today. So we don't have too much time left, but really keen to get some questions. Do you want to go for it first? Yeah, at the front.
Hello, hi. So my name is Rain Stern, and I'm also a musician, songwriter, and composer from the United States. And this is very inspiring to see you guys as two women up here doing your thing. So your music is clearly very inspired by truth and science is the embodiment of our human search for truth. And we need that kind of leadership in pop culture and media as well. So something that I was thinking about is, as a musician, I was sitting here and I was able to appreciate all of the nuances that were going into your compositions, and I was loving it, and I was taking a bunch of notes. But something that concerns me and something I've been thinking about and actually working on is how do we put that kind of same message into pop music and make it super, super accessible to everyone. And that's actually something I've been working on. So this might be personal, but how willing are you to work with pop musicians who are, we're spanning generations, and that's something I think could be super powerful. And so I love your idea about festivals and things like that. So how willing are you to like do collaborations in other fields and things like that? And also, does that make sense? Is that a clear question? Okay.
Well, I mean, the whole basis of this project is collaboration at its highest degree, and so that is what we need to do as a species if we're going to solve problems on this world together. So I am absolutely open to everything, and a little fun fact is that I've actually written a chill out album with my husband, so so it's kind of, you know, ticks some of those boxes there. So I am sort of like quite diverse in the different genres of music, so you know, we just bind together and do whatever we need to do to inspire the daylights out of everyone. So bring it on.
And you know, I want to add to that is that, you know, we met through an organization called the International Association of Astronomical Artists, which is you know, space-themed kind of art that started out based on the science that we know. It's grown through that. There's been the fantasy of what we didn't know because we hadn't sent probes to places for. So forever within the science and the art world, we've been bringing kind of this diverse population together to try to represent what we're learning, right, or what we don't know yet. And through this relationship, I think it's kind of interesting how we've, like people like you that we encounter, other young musicians that have approached us as well, or have seen what we've done and then have tried to kind of follow through their own genre or their own approach to things. And so I love that you would even ask the question, you know, that you would be looking at it, be inspired, as Amanda says so beautifully, in your particular way to want to communicate this as well. Love it.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
We've got another question just behind.
Hi, so this question is for Nicole, and first off for Amanda, just a thought, have you thought about AR, VR experiences with this? I think that'd be a good pairing, just as a thought. And then for Nicole, this question actually came up a week ago, so having the opportunity to ask this is funny. So the overview effect is obviously this idea that we get rapid shift in awareness as an astronaut when you see the blue marble. So for you, do you think there'll be a pretty big impact as commercial space flight technology kind of upgrades for just the world as a whole? And will that shift the way that we enact with climate and stuff like that? I would love to hear your perspective on this idea that like literally allowing people to see the blue marble will start to shape how we impact the world as a whole, right?
You know, short answer is absolutely yes. I think we're already seeing that in, you know, people who have had the opportunity to fly to space. You know, the picture I showed you of us kind of goofy with our clown noses on, there's a gentleman in that picture named Guy Laliberté, who was the owner-founder of Cirque du Soleil. And he was on station with us. He flew with the Russians. You know, this is not something I could ever contemplate, but had to spare $35 million, right, to fly with the Russians, spend 10 days on the space station. Now you would think, oh, this is Guy coming to space just because he's got this bucket list to, you know, I'm sure the man wanted to go to space, but his whole underlying motivation was that, you know, he has a foundation that's all about educating people about the lack of clean drinking water in certain places on this planet, and then providing access to them for that. And so his whole mission was built around that. And when he came back to Earth, I guarantee you that his influence was heightened, his inspiration was heightened to continue that mission, but to extend on it. You know, we could talk a lot about it, but, you know, the recent experience with William Shatner. I'm sorry, I'm like, I want more people to have that Shatner experience, to be coming off their space. We as astronauts aren't, it's not that we're not allowed, but we're not like in a place when we come off our spaceship to immediately like grab somebody and tell them, oh my gosh, you don't know what I just experienced. You know, and Shatner was allowed to, I mean, he wasn't going to stop, right? And he expressed in a way I don't think I've ever been able to say it, you know, just something so raw and pure from what he just saw. And the man's an actor, but he's not that good. You know, that was not scripted. You know what I mean? And so there is a power in it. And the people that I met who are thinking, you know, that have the means to go at this point, that is underlying their motivation, is how can I have this experience, develop this connection to this place I know is my home. And yet I sit here on the stage equally, I mean, as I'm watching this, especially that Earth, bringing us back to Earth through this music that Amanda has created, I mean, I've got this same kind of sense that I did looking out those windows of my space station. And I don't know if it's that I'm trying to find ways to recreate that feeling I had, but I don't think that's just it. I think it's because there is awe and wonder around us all the time. There are ways for us to experience that if we open our hearts and minds to it that are just awesome and wonderful. And then we need to apply that to the decisions we make, the people we gang up with, if you want to say so, to solve these problems. And I think it's there for us. But short answer, I believe that the more people we, actually I think, and I've said this a number of times at some different forums before, is that our leaders that are sitting around a table in whatever city they're in at a conference, holy moly, if we could fly them and they could have their little heads bouncing off each other in front of that cupola window facing towards Earth, oh my gosh, they would be compelled in a way that I don't think we can even imagine. I know that that's going to happen. Maybe we can Elon to put all 100 and whatever of them onto the one thing and ship them up there to have that view. But it is incredible. Yeah.
So one more question. Would you?
Hi, this is for Nicole. I can understand that while you were on the space station, that your focus was very frequently immersed in that perspective. And obviously when you've come back, there's this commitment to try to help other people see all of the things that you've said. In the other day-to-day aspects of life, how has being on the space station and seeing the planet, what sort of kaleidoscope plays out for you in whether you're making the dinner or meeting with a friend or all of the other aspects of life? How does that experience, how is it retained or maybe not retained because the mind's changing all the time?
I think it's absolutely retained. I think, you know, I'm a pretty simple person, so I try to share like this planet Earthling thin blue line thing, which ultimately to me means we need to behave like crewmates. You know, the way that we successfully live and work and survive on a space station, and I know it's order of magnitude, right? You got 7 people on a space station, 7 billion plus on a planet, but holy moly, it's matter of scale, but it's doable. And I think if everybody was keeping those 3 little things in their mind like I do with every decision I'm making now. And I think it's what led me. There's a serendipity, I think, that comes from that kind of thing, that like bringing it into the spirit of who you are. That's how I met Amanda. I mean, I think it's how that relationship has grown. You know, I had the opportunity to paint while I was in space, and now art has become the way that I want to communicate the experience I had. This group called the Space for Art, the art you saw in the 7th movement, that's all artwork from these kids around the world, you know, that we've brought together where, you know, these are kids in places that are going through what the hope is the worst thing they ever have to experience in their life. They're in pediatric cancer centers, refugee centers, very rural schools around the world. And we've been able to bring them together through this inspiration. We say we're uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. And I really feel like that's what's happening through this symphony as well. There's this undeniable connection between our personal health and our planetary health. And we have to recognize, that's the whole interconnectivity of it all, right? And whether it's through what we hear and see through this symphony or what these kids are experiencing by bringing their art together in the creation of a beautiful art spacesuit, or me as an individual keeping in mind these 3 simple lessons and wanting not to leave a spaceship where I was a crew, you know, mechanical life support system, but coming back to here to Earth and living my life as a crew member. And that's what I want. If nothing else, you know, from me at least, I want you to leave here today. And I think we were asked to speak to what, you know, kind of, you know, jobs, green jobs or whatever, but that is the greenest job you can have, I think, is to figure out how in your daily lives from here on out that you will live as crew. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Time for. Thank you.